Welcome back to G Street Fabrics Bernina Guide Class. This is part 2 of 2 of the 7 series How to Set Up Your Sewing Machine tutorial. We've got our thread, our bobbin, presser foot, and needle all set up, and now let's walk through the knobs and buttons of your sewing machine. Let's look at the left-hand side over here. The first 2 buttons are your needle up and needle down function and the pattern begin. On a 770 and 740, the buttons on the left are slightly different. These machines will only have the needle up and down functions and the pattern and button. The pattern begin on these machines, however, is located through the I for information button on the screen. More on that later. Back to the 790, below the first 2 buttons is the pattern end, and beside it is the secure function to lock a stitch. The dial below is your speed control, with the minus being the slowest and the plus sign the fastest. Further down we have the key functions right here above the needle. The first one is the green button to start or stop sewing without the use of the foot pedal. Below is the presser foot up or down. Then there's the thread cutter and the reverse button. To the right of the screen, there are 2 knobs. The one above has a zigzag icon beside it. This is to alter your stitch width. The knob below, with the straight stitch icon, is for your stitch length. And underneath are the 2 buttons that changes the position of your needle to the left or right. If you press the left or right button, your screen will show you the needle placement as it physically moves too. And if you touch the CLR or clear button, it will revert to the original center position. Just to give you a further example, back to the stitch width knob over here, the measurement is indicated above here on your screen. If you alter the width, the screen will preview the stitches. So if you alter this straight stitch with wider stitches, it turns into a zigzag. Press CLR once more and it will revert back to its original setting. And it's also the same with the stitch length. The measurement is found on this side over here. And the default stitch length is 2.5 millimeters. By turning the knob, we can increase the length or decrease the length. As you can see, the number also changes as you do so. When you've altered a setting, the font will change from white to yellow. This is to indicate that you have changed the setting. And again, if you press CLR, it will revert back to the original setting and will go back to the white font. Let's take a further look at the screen of this 790 machine. You'll know by now that the 790 has a larger screen than the 770 and 740, but both will have the same functions. If you look at on either side of the 790 screen, there are 2 rows in black with various icons with the features and settings. Then there's also a row of blue icons over here, and these are your stitch selections. This large area here is where your stitch display or preview will be. The upper corner icon is the needle stop position. Right now it's set to stop stitches with the needle up. If you touch the icon, you can set the stitch to stop with the needle down into the fabric. In the center of the screen, there is an eye icon for information. If you touch this icon, there are more features you can use to personalize stitches. For now, we will close this and we can talk about this later. Let's focus on the feature icons on the left-hand side over here. The very first one at the top that says 5.25, that's for your tension for your top thread. Click the icon and a new window will appear with a dial. The default setting is at 5.25 with a straight stitch, and this will change depending on the type of stitch that you enter in. To exit, simply press X in the corner. And like I said, if you select a different stitch, for example a zigzag stitch, your top thread tension will also lower to a 4.25. Right, let's return to the straight stitch. The second icon is for your needle selection, along with the stitch plate icon further down. We like to call these your security program. If you go ahead and press the needle, you will also see the stitch plate display. Note that on a 770 and 740, the needle and stitch plate icons are combined. Over here we have the selection for all the needle types. You can also select a special knee needle, for example twin needles with different widths, a wing needle or a triple needle. In most cases you will probably only use a single needle. Right now we do want to make sure that that's selected with the green check mark. Underneath here you can see that there are 5 different stitch plates that's compatible with your machine. The one that's attached right now is the 9mm stitch plate, and it is confirmed on the security program as well. Okay, let's exit this window. The next icon down is the presser foot selection. The presser foot selection works a little differently on the 7 series. Let's look through this window right now. Here are all the possible presser feet options that you can use with the straight stitch. The best presser foot recommendation will often appear first on a wider box and a yellow star. Please note that the presser foot manual selection is not available for the 770 nor the 740. This is only available for the 790. To quickly find a specific foot, use the search tool above and enter in the presser foot number, and the feet selection will narrow down to the closest search results. Just make sure that you select the foot with the correct letter. Since we've attached a number 34D foot, we'll go ahead and select that. Once you've made that setting selection, the number here will change accordingly and will be displayed in a yellow text. The next icon down is the foot pressure. The default setting is on 50. If you press that, you can change the pressure through here depending on the material you are sewing with. But for now, we will use the default setting and leave it as it is. We've already talked about the stitch plate selection earlier, so let's move on to the feed dogs. The next icon down is your feed dogs position. When you're sewing normally, your feed dogs are up. When it's in a white text, this means that your feed dog is up. But when you're doing free motion sewing or machine embroidery, you need to bring your feed dogs down. And when it's yellow, this means that your feed dog is lowered. To activate this or deactivate it, press the button on the right side of your machine above the foot pedal port. Lastly, the bottom icon is your bobbin sensor. It will flash once your bobbin thread is down to its last 10% capacity. Your machine will also stop sewing once your bobbin thread is completely empty. Now let's get sewing. Up next, we'll show you how to sew using the Start-Stop button. Remember to bring your feed dogs up from last time, and take your fabric and place it underneath the presser foot. Using the markers on the stitch plate, align it to the 5/8 ruler. Lower the presser foot using the green button to hold your fabric. Press and hold the green button down again to start sewing. We are currently using the medium sewing speed to better guide the fabric through. We've just pressed the green button once more to stop, and we will then select a decorative stitch from one of the stitch selection folders. And once we've found it, let's continue to sew using the Start Stop button again. To complete a design, press the pattern end button above the speed control dial, and it should stop at a full pattern. Cut your thread, then lift your presser foot automatically. You can also change the stitch settings as you sew. You can increase or decrease a stitch width, or shorten or lengthen a stitch length while it's sewing. Take a look. And there you have it. Thanks for watching this tutorial. We hope that you've learned more about your sewing machine. We only wish that you'll enjoy it. Watch out for our next Bernina guide class, where we'll teach you how to combine stitches on your 7 series sewing machine. Till next time, happy sewing!